What's up, people? I am Conquering Mountains, and welcome to another episode of the I Am Conquering Mountains podcast. We got a very special guest joining us today. He is a world-renowned artist. He is changing people's lives through his art and his graphic designs. You can see them on basketball courts, probably coming to one near you. You can see them in schools and nonprofit organizations. He is the 2021 Anne Arundel County Visual Artist of the Year, 2021 Leadership Anne Arundel Flagship Graduate, 2020 Leadership Anne Arundel NLA Graduate, 2019 Entrepreneurial Excellence Award recipient, and the 2015 DMV Titans Award recipient as well for Painter and Drawer of the Year. He also designed my book cover, Conquering Mountains. You can get that on Amazon or on my website at betheoutcome.org. He has done some designs for some celebrities that you probably know, like Lamar Jackson, 50 Cent, Jadakiss, Angela Davis. The list goes on and on and on. I probably could do a whole episode on this guy's accolades alone. And I want to welcome you all and introduce you all and welcome my friend, Comacell Brown, aka Cell Spitfire.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on your show, Charles. It's a great pleasure.
Absolutely.
It was an honor designing the book cover, and it was great to get the physical product in my hand. And it's in the back with the rest of my great artwork pieces that I've done for other clients. So I appreciate you, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, you really brought this book cover to life, man. You did everything that I mean, you saw past what I had envisioned for it. So you have a brilliant mind with the work that you do. We'll talk a lot about that today, but I definitely appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule to join us here today to share some insight on some of the mountains you've had to conquer, where you're at in life, where you come from, but also kind of giving some tools people can put into their toolbox to help them overcome some of the obstacles that they may be going through as well, too. So my first question is, when did you discover your talent for art, and when did you discover your passion for it?
I think that first it started at an early age, and it was something that I really didn't understand was good until I got that confirmation from my parents, my grandparents. I feel like a lot of children are almost you're not taught to draw, but you're expected to draw when you're young. That's like one of the things that parents give you to do to bypass time or to keep you focused on one thing. So initially I was just already doodling and drawing, but I remember being 5 years old and partly tracing and then drawing freehand a nude woman that I had found in a magazine around.
Yeah.
So I took it to my granddad, and it was funny because I didn't know if he was going to be mad at me for drawing woman or was he going to be proud? So it was a little bit of both. He was shocked, asked me where did I get the pictures to draw it from, and I showed him, but he was impressed. And I remember him really like just focusing up like, man, this is really good. Like, did you trace this? And I was like, some of it, but I drew this part of it by hand. And he started to show it to his friends. And that kind of gave me the confirmation that I might have something good here. So going forward, any little projects that was presented to me, like at the Salvation Army under after school camp, which I attended, I would always try my best to just do something and bring back that same wow factor that I gave my grandfather. And I started to make a habit of that just to show people I like that feeling that I could do something good. It's appreciated by other people, and then they brag on it. So that's kind of where it started.
And that's dope too, because like I feel like a lot of times, you know, parents can kind of have a kid's dream short-lived because it might not have been something that they would consider appropriate. You know, like you drawing a naked woman, like instead of him saying, boy, you shouldn't be looking at that, he's like, hey, you know, you did something real good, and, you know, kind of encourage you to do so. You know, being at 5 years old, man, that's super dope that he encouraged you to do that as well, too. Because, and also like you have like, you know, they say, when you think about a career, do something that you love or do something that brings you joy, something that makes you happy. And you have taken, you know, something that you love to do and created a business out of it, you know, and not everybody can say that, you know, they're doing something for a career, that they love to do. So that's definitely commendable as well too.
Thank you.
And because like you don't work for like a company that gets you the gigs and stuff, right? You're a freelance artist.
Yeah, freelance. A lot of the projects are either through word of mouth with somebody who really enjoys the artwork that may work for a firm, nonprofit, or a school. And they typically, if I'm not presenting or proposing a job, they'll just throw my name in the hat and show them some of my projects. But when you're dealing with schools or nonprofits or institutes, it's a threshold of an amount of money which they'll that you can present before they start looking for other options. So if I present a project that's over $5,000, they may be down to do it, but because of the way the school system is set up, they'll have to run that through the rank of command, or chain of command, and get confirmations and signatures, and then they have to actually put it out to their list of contractors to see if somebody can offer them a cheaper bid. So with dealing with schools, I try to keep it between that threshold where I'm already guaranteed the job or I have that great relationship. But there's other cases where people just literally, I'll get an email, man. I love waking up to emails to say, hey, we heard about you through this avenue and we're interested in having you participate in this event. So I have a lot of future projects in the works that kind of came about that way.
That's cool. I mean, because being a freelance artist, you're building your own clientele. Instead of having a company that already has a brand name, you're building your own brand, and that's a mountain to conquer within itself. And did you go to school for graphic art design or anything?
Yep. Right after high school, graduated from Annapolis High School in 2004, and immediately went straight to college in that summer season. I was only 17 years old. Went to Atlanta, Georgia, at the Art Institute of Atlanta, and that was a mountain in itself. Going to the city, not having much family there. I mean, I had family that greeted me there. My uncle's wife, and was from Atlanta, so she met me there and kind of got me acclimated at the beginning with furniture, school supplies, and just the little area around my school. And then once I was dropped off, that was it. It was just
fed you to the wolves.
in the school, man. So that first year in Atlanta, I just really took getting used to the area, not even really jumping in the paint. I have to be comfortable with my surroundings and know what I'm dealing with before I just jump into artwork. So I kind of just focused on school for a little bit, and eventually started doing those same t-shirts I was painting in high school and also doing that in college.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's cool because like a lot of times, like I work in the school system. I used to work at Annapolis High. I'm a school counselor in a middle school now. So I'm often giving like classroom guidance lessons on professions that our kids can obtain in the school that I work at. It's more of like a blue collar area where kids where more people have those blue collar jobs where they don't need, college or anything like that. But hearing another aspect of, where you can go to a graphic art design school and major in it, get a degree in it, and also build a career out of it. That's definitely good to kind of include in some of my lessons. So I appreciate that as well too.
No problem.
Now you've done some designs for like celebrities, right? So do you remember the first like celebrity call that you got to do something?
None of them were ever directly from a celebrity. As you
Okay.
know, a lot of them have agents, managers, and that type of deal. So anytime, well, let me say the first celebrity that I dealt with, I believe, was 50 Cent. And that was just me going above and beyond to make sure that I meet him. So I saw on Instagram that 50 Cent, when he was dealing with the liquor company Effin Vodka, he was posting when they were doing their advertising run. He was posting different pieces of art that had that Effin Vodka theme in it. Wasn't any contest or anything. It was just something that they were kind of doing to promote the brand. I reached out to a college buddy of mine in Atlanta, showed him the post. I said, hey, man, let's collaborate on something, and I'm going to get it to 50 Cent. He was like, what do you want to do? I was like, man, you have a great creative brain, and so do I. I was like, you can start it. Leave me, whatever you started with, just leave me room to finish, and we're going to do it that way. So my guy Mel in Atlanta, he did his part. He drew a real cool Effin Vodka bottle as a person, and he had all of
Wow.
these little cocktail glasses around him that were people. And one of the cocktail glasses was taking the top off of the bottle while the other guys were
I've seen that on
distracted.
your website too.
So it was a real dope concept. And I finished it up with a real clever background that made it look like a neon nightclub. And I started to follow 50 Cent closer to make sure that every city that he would come to, I would kind of know beforehand. And he wasn't giving people too much room to know. It might be a day or two. So one of these days, he said he was going to be in Delaware, which was the closest location out of all of them. I hit up my cousin because I didn't have a vehicle at the time. Told her about the opportunity. I said, hey, can I please use your car for a couple hours? I'm driving to Delaware, trying to get this painting to 50 Cent. She let me do it. Went up there, got up there just in time. The line was wrapped around the liquor store, but we waited. It was cool because when you got in the inside, they said the only way you could meet 50 Cent is if you bought a bottle. So we bought three different flavor bottles, went in, presented the painting to him. He was wild. He was like, man, you the first person to bring me an actual painting here at the advertising. I told him I still had paint on my hands because I had just finished And then he gave me a tip about, he said, maybe you should come down to Art Basel in Miami when it comes up and promote your artwork. So in that case right there, I literally gifted him the artwork. But as you saw, we were able to get content from that, get a picture. And then a few months later, I actually saw 50 Cent in another picture. He was backstage with one of the group members from Mobb Deep, and he actually had the painting sitting on the floor right next to him when he took the picture.
Wow.
This was in a whole nother state. So that gave me the idea that, hey, 50 Cent might be actually traveling with this painting with him. Because as I said, that was a few months after I gave it to him. So, you know, that was one of them opportunities where I created the opportunity. I saw the small window to do it, and I took advantage of it.
That's cool, man. Because some people would be like, "Man, I'm gonna get up there. He ain't gonna even let me meet 50. I ain't gonna give him. He ain't gonna want no painting." But you know, it's definitely like something that you got to be like driven, you know, to make sure that your craft is getting out there. So you know, that's big that you actually got to. Now, what was it like meeting him? Were you like in awe, or like were you kind of like just trying to be cool?
I was definitely trying to be cool, but for me, when I'm giving somebody artwork, my first thing that I like to pay attention to is the facial expressions and the emotions. Because even though I'm giving it to you for free, you know, it took my time, and I just want to make sure that you appreciate it and you like it. So I was really focused on what his reaction was, but it really opened up because I saw how he was interacting with a few of the people that came in before us, and it was just a real quick picture, how you doing, and kept it moving. And when he saw the painting and met me and my family, he almost stayed with us a little bit too long, to the point where the security had to say, 50, you got people waiting, bro. Like he was literally trying to start a conversation with me. So it was actually different than what I assumed. You know, we see 50 Cent on TV, and in his music, he portrays the old gangster that he used to be. And even in his movies, you know, he's a gangster. So you almost assume that that's what that personality is going to be like. But it was actually very professional. You could tell 50 is about his business. So I learned a lot just from the interaction in that moment from 50.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people. I've heard people who have interviewed him say that as well too. That he's a very professional guy, you know, and he's not always on that tip as some people think that he is. So, I mean, that's cool that you got to kind of like give him your artwork, and you know, hopefully that kind of leads to or has led to some other opportunities as well too. And you've done like murals for like basketball courts. You've done murals for schools and stuff like that. Which ones bring you the most joy? Where it makes you feel like good that you just did that for somebody?
The two that stand out the most to me are the Breonna Taylor, both of the Breonna Taylor murals that I participated in. The first one was a collaboration project with Future History Now, and the lead artist on that was Jeff Huntington. I was thankful that he allowed me and all of the other volunteers to come in and take part of that. And as you saw, that first Breonna Taylor mural went viral around the country. It was like a span of 2 to 3 months where we were seeing the mural on several news outlets or news TV every day. Like every day, I signed up with Google Alerts, so anytime Future History Now or that mural was mentioned, I would automatically get an email. So I would check my email in the morning, and I'm saying 3 to 4, 5 in the morning, you'll see 5 or 6 different articles have been posted in Kentucky, Cincinnati, like random cities. And then the last thing that really capped it off was seeing that mural on the presidential debate, and also seeing it before the NBA season started when it was in the bubble for COVID. So the mural was really getting around. So that's when I finally, that light bulb went off that, hey, your artwork can not only impact the person that you give it to, but the world as a whole. So that project was really dope. We were able to go down to Breonna Taylor's hometown in Louisville, Kentucky, to do another mural specifically for her family and unveil it on her birthday. That was an amazing experience. I took my team from Maryland down here, down to Kentucky, and I also linked up with my college roommate who was from Louisville and got him to be a part of the project as well.
Oh, cool.
So, you know, he was able to see in person all of the things that I had been doing and kind of stacking up here in Maryland, finally see that in person. Yeah. And then he was even recognized that his job for Humana for participating in the project. So he started to get a lot more art jobs just from participating. So that type of impact from a project is always meaningful to me. And last, the first mural project that I led was the Carl Lester Smith mural. He was well known in my city as Buckwheat. Who walked up and down the city of Annapolis picking up trash and on his leisure, not asking for a dime. He would literally stop traffic to pick up trash. And it was one instance where a rookie cop had just started and seen Buckwheat walking through the city, and he literally almost handcuffed. Well, he did handcuff Buckwheat, but the city went nuts. They went nuts. Yeah. From the mayor down to regular, you know, people. And that officer got a huge backlash from that, but it just to show you how impactful Carl Lester was. So I was able to do a mural of him on the side of a liquor store on West Street. And it just pretty much displays him walking through a beautiful city, carrying trash, and it has his name on it. And it was so great to paint that picture because it took us 3 days, and every single person that rode past who heard who we were painting had a cool, unique story of their own about how they could connect with Buckwheat or how they grew up seeing them all the time. So those two murals to this day are my favorites because they have such a huge impact on the community at whole and have brought some type of unity.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I remember him when I first moved to Maryland in 2011. I was just driving down West Street and I see this guy waving a bag and he's picking up trash. I didn't know what he was doing, but I knew he was in the street. I better stop. Everybody stopped. Yeah, I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and pull over, let him do his thing. So yeah, but I definitely remember him, man. And that's big that you get to use your art to, you know, impact people and also build some unity and bring people together too. So that's definitely dope. Yeah, and
that saying of giving people their flowers while they're alive, that was true for him because we painted that, I believe, 8 months before he passed away. So, you know, it wasn't one of them cases where you memorize somebody through, you know, typically through artwork before they passed, but it was, I mean, after they passed, but in this case, it was before he passed. So that was great.
Wasn't that covered in the paper too about him? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And one thing I've heard people say about you is that I remember I was in a barbershop one day and you had walked in and then I think you had ended up leaving and the guy was cutting my hair, Eric. And I was like, yeah, man, I know Comacell, you did my my book cover. And the common thing that I've heard people say about you is that you're a very humble guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I can tell that, I can see that, you know, because where some people may kind of get the big head once they start to see their craft being recognized and stuff like that, and they're meeting different people of these high caliber statuses. But you know, you seem very down to earth and very humble. Like what drives that humble spirit that you have?
I would say when I was doing music, there was more of a cocky side that I had. But as I moved to Atlanta, that was one of the art forms that I pushed more than anything. I was trying to be more of a rapper than an actual artist. And in that whole experience, it's a lot harder than artwork because you have to prove yourself a lot more. And I ran into celebrities even through that time period. And the experience wasn't as good as the one with 50 Cent. I felt like when you are a rapper, a lot of people, like, even if your music is good, you just have to prove yourself 3 times more. It's like, oh, you rap? oh, you another one of those type. So
Yeah.
going through that process really humbled me because I thought I was great. I still do think I was great, but when you have to prove yourself so much, that humbles you, you know, and that sat me down a lot to really look at myself like, not that I just knew that it took a lot more hands and people to make that dream come true.
Right.
And as I dabble back into the artwork, I noticed that a lot of those accolades and those comments came a lot more naturally and less forced. And the artistic talent was something that I was actually blessed from God with. I wasn't taught how to draw. I practiced over and over and got there. And with rap, I remember starting out, I wasn't good. It took a lot longer for me to get good at rap than it was drawing. So, you know, just going through those experiences of contemplating if I'm going to be successful or being downplayed by somebody that was above me as far as status goes, I always said to myself, I never want to make somebody else feel like that if I got there. So I just try my best to give people a great first impression, because another thing I learned in my life is you never know when you'll see somebody again. You may just be meeting somebody or have a brief interaction walking into a Starbucks, and if that interaction goes wrong, and then I have to see that person in a meeting later on and they're on the board, how do you think that they look at me, or how can that influence their decision to even get me a job? So, and you know, all of those different experiences have led me to just see that humans are humans. You know, we all make mistakes, but we can't judge and we can't, you know, give off this bravado type of vibe to just because of your status, man. I remember every day that I'm a human and I bleed just like anybody else.
That's good, man. That's good. So, like, you grew up in Annapolis, right?
Yep.
Right. And I remember you mentioned earlier that when you were 5 years old, you showed your grandfather the picture of the new woman that you drew for. Did your grandparents raise you? Were you living
Yes.
with your grandparents? Oh, okay.
Yep.
And what was that like?
That was tough. That was a very tough time where I was trying to find my identity. Because one, I had a unique name. My name is Comacell. So anytime my name was said in class or from an adult, their first question would be, where does that name come from? Or what does that mean? And I never had an answer for it. So it was tough asking my grandparents a lot of questions about where my dad was or where my mom was, and them not wanting to give me that full truth. So I constantly just went through life, always felt like I wasn't not fully loved, but just almost forgotten about. And that really put a drive in me to make sure the world would know my name in some type of capacity. So that's pretty much, you know, the type of vibe or type of situation that I was going through growing up with that. But my grandparents, loving. I mean, some of the best grandparents probably in the world, man. Spoiled me to a certain extent because they always wanted me to learn how to work for my own. But if I perform well, which I got on a roll in most cases in elementary school, they always rewarded me well. So, you know, with that type of discipline and love in the household, I still was able to make it to where I am today.
Yeah. And like, so like I'm a school counselor, right? So I often have, and we're seeing that same situation as you have had with your grandparents raising you, that grandparents are becoming parents again, especially in the area that I'm at in Pasadena. So, and oftentimes our students or the students that I have those conversations with feel exactly how you feel, whether they're or how you felt at the time. A lot of them feel either rejected or it's their fault that their parents aren't there or one parent isn't there. How did you keep yourself going when you had those kind of thoughts in your mind?
I couldn't have did it on my own. The one thing that I lucked up, and I think it was and this is another reason why I'm constantly creating good relationships with people, is my grandmother was very well known in the city of Annapolis. She had a lot of great friendships with people of importance. And in most of them cases, when when they would ask my grandmother or she would volunteer to tell them about my situation, they would offer to bring me into something to keep me occupied, whether that be a baseball club. I was in Cub Scouts, played football, basketball, of course, after school art. So all of these different events or things that I could partake in kept me not only busy, but around mentors who really strive to create a next generation of leaders and successful leaders. So I really had to dedicate a lot of that to that. I call myself a true product of Annapolis because I felt like not only was I raised by my grandparents, but by leaders in the city. Like I have to mention one of my friends' moms, Miss Odessa Ellis. She was the one that got me. Yes, love Miss Odessa. She was the one who got me into Cub Scouts. She was the first person to show me how to deliver newspapers. She took us on college trips. She took us on a Black History trip all the way to Canada so we could see how the railroad started up there. Like it was just dope. So having people like her and other mentors in my life really constantly kept me occupied and kept putting me on a pedestal to get me to the next level. So that's why in my life right now I'm constantly doing workshops, teaching to give back that same affection and education that was given to me.
Yeah. So like when you see we have those murals that you're doing in the schools, do you ever get to see the kids' reactions?
Yes. I almost put that in my contracts to make sure that whatever area of the school I'm painting in is a high traffic area where kids either walk into and from class, or in the case of my last two murals, I did the cafeteria. So because I used the lift in the last cafeteria, school suggested not for any kids not to be around. So they didn't get to see it until afterwards. But the other school, Severn, which is hand painted, they were able to see the mural being painted for 3 straight days during their lunch periods. And it's a total different experience with having them seeing it from start to finish, opposed to them just seeing the end. They love it at the end regardless, but they appreciate and they respect it a lot more when they can see how it's crafted, how it's sketched, and then how it's finished.
Yeah. Why do you think it's a huge difference seeing it from start to finish with the kids?
I think they really get to respect preparation, focus, attention to detail, and the final, just finally getting to exhale and see your finished product. And I think that they almost feel like they took part in that because, they cheer me on throughout the process. Some people come up and say, hey, you should put this there. So it's almost like a slight collaboration. And typically in these projects with the kids, I would let them participate. But because of the school hours and the classes, I didn't want to interrupt that or take away from the lunch period. But coming up in this summer, you'll see a lot more of my projects where the kids actually do paint. And I love it when I can take someone who didn't have an interest in art at all and it turns into a hobby or an actual career.
Hey, man, you make me wish I could draw. But that's good, man, because it kind of gives kids some stake in the game too, to give them some positive outlets too. I have worked with a lot of kids who they like to do some things in the art field, whether it's drawing and painting, whether it's music and singing and stuff like that, and they often use those things as positive outlets. And I feel like a lot of times for kids like us and coming from where we come from, that for instance, I grew up right outside of Atlanta in Decatur, Georgia, where it was all sports. Like you should be playing a sport. I don't even remember picking up a paintbrush. But now that I'm older, I'm like, dang, I wish I had paid attention in art class because that would be another positive outlet that I could utilize, but exposing those kids to those things definitely helps them in their development as well too. So I greatly appreciate you for going into those schools, letting those kids participate, and even like sharing insight with them. Because you mentioned that you do some workshops.
Yes.
Are those with kids too?
Yep. So right now I'm doing a workshop with the same school, Severn Elementary. I'm working with their social justice club, 4th and 5th grade. 4th and 5th graders. The first time
social justice club in elementary school.
Exactly. See, that's what I was about to say. When the principal told me that, I said I gotta link up with them. So the first question I asked when I was with them is, how many of y'all know who Breonna Taylor is? I think only 2 out of the 16 knew. So I was able to tell her story and how I was a part of that social justice movement there. And lastly, I just created a logo for them, and I can actually show you some of the drawings.
Okay.
So with the logo that I created for them, they gave me a bunch of papers. Each kid did a drawing.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Kind of telling me what they see with the social justice club.
Yeah.
And what I did was go through all of these drawings and pull out one, the things that I saw repeated a lot, which were colors, the SJC, and I created and crafted a really dope logo that I was able to come back and present to them, and they loved it. So now they're gonna start getting T-shirts made. I'm gonna come back and actually show them how to make the T-shirts and hoodies. So the artwork, I'm able to do that in different forms, from the mural to graphic design, all the way down to T-shirt pressing. So that's that's how my workshops can go. They can go in all different types of angles because of my skills. And I can also look at the reactions of the students and see what they're most interested in to know which direction to go.
Hey man, I need to get you to come to my school.
I would love it, man. Let me know.
Definitely. Because we have we started a social justice club this year at our school because we were having some issues with like bias and racist language and stuff like that. So we did it to kind of give those kids a voice and some support. But definitely if they could get some of those lessons that you're giving for the workshop, that would definitely be beneficial. So we'll definitely have to link up on that too.
Cool.
Because when I think about like all the stuff that you talked about today and all the stuff that I've seen you do via social media and having your artwork on the news and stuff like that, and also thinking about the hardships you came from, not having your biological parents there and being raised by your grandparents. Statistically, you're not supposed to be where you are, but thank God that you are here, and you were given some opportunity, or you took advantage of those outlets that your grandparents got you in, Miss Odessa Ellis got you in, and even just having that drive to just make sure that because it's hard to stay on that straight and narrow path and I feel like as a school counselor, I'm often seeing kids and, I see the impact of not having your biological parents have on today's young people, and having biological parents in your life, active and participating and encouraging you and stuff like that. When you don't have that, it does kind of make our young people kind of figure out what is their identity, or why isn't my parents around and stuff like that. So I definitely commend you on still, pursuing those goals and those dreams because, like I said, statistically, you're not supposed to be, where you are. But I'm thankful that you didn't let those hardships you experienced, early on, impact you in a way that could have led you in a different path. So I guess like what advice would you give to today's young people who are experiencing some of the same things that you're experiencing? Or have experienced, I'm sorry.
My advice to the young people in the next generation would be to develop some type of selfishness, actually, because when we're talking about identity and not having both parents in the household or influence, a lot of those children tend to go to what's in the streets, right? They surround themselves with a group of friends, they create a name for this group, and it's almost a gang to a certain extent. And then that gang is controlled by territory, which is in your neighborhood. So, that's the first thing that we got to get past. And I think that comes with being selfish, knowing that you can't just follow your friends everywhere you need to go. It starts with you first. If you have things that you're obligated to do, or accountability, you have to be accountable for the things. You can't always blame your friends. So I think you have to be selfish, really look in the mirror and see where you're trying to go. And when you see that and you develop the plan for that, you'll see which friends or associates fit into that plan. And if they don't, you just have to learn how to move on. That's something I had to learn later on in life. And there was a lot of cases where I was either stereotyped or just made a comment about based on the people that I was around. And now here I am, where I still have friends and associates, but they're not going to all of these different jobs with me or different things. When it's party time and to have fun, that's when we can get up. But right now it's grind mode and staying focused. And that's how I've been able to be successful and where I am today.
It's dope, man. That's some great advice, because you do have to be selfish a little bit because other people can kind of dictate or try to dictate whatever path they think you should go in. However, you got to find kind of like your own lane and passions and things of that nature. Because like with kids today, especially with social media, that influences, that peer pressure is it's rough, man, on a lot of our kids.
Definitely.
So having that advice of just, being selfish, doing what makes you happy, doing the things that you want to do and partake in, is definitely beneficial for those young people.
Sure.
And thank you, man. I greatly appreciate all that you've done, all that you're doing, especially the work that you're doing for the community. And I hope that, hope and pray you get all the flowers that you deserve, because you're doing a lot of work that's inspiring a lot of people, and, also like I know you said that you're a true product of Annapolis, but you're also a product of hope as well. Because not everybody gets to do the things that they love to do, especially coming from the extremes that you've come from. So I greatly appreciate everything you're doing. And if there's anything that I can help with, feel free to reach out at any time.
Most definitely. Thank you, Charles.
How can people find you if they're looking for you?
So on social media, I'm pretty much on all of the platforms from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Everything is the same at Cell Spitfire. Recently, me and my partner Todd, we just acquired the business Art Things, which was a minority woman-owned business for 50 plus years that closed up during the pandemic and recently, went up for sale. So that's going to be another great place to be able to find me. The store Art Things is located inside of the historic Maryland Hall Gallery. So that flows and goes together perfectly, having an art store inside of an art gallery. And with that store, we're going to offer workshops to kids, teens, and adults, along with the classes that Maryland Hall already offers that I teach at. So it'll be multiple ways for you yourself as an adult or your child to be involved and taught through my workshops. And the partnership between Maryland Hall is going to be great to really expand that and offer these things that are no cost to people that are in lower communities. So I would encourage anybody interested to follow me on those platforms. Check out my website, www.cellspitfire.com, to be able to see my work, stay up to date on my calendar, and to reach me via email.
Okay, cool. And I'll definitely put the links to your social media and your website up there on when I post the episode as well too.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much, Comacell, for joining me today on another episode of I Am Conquering Mountains. And you are truly a spokesperson or the ideal figure to be someone who has conquered mountains and still reaching for higher heights. So I definitely appreciate everything that you're doing. Hang on a second while I stop the recording.